Welcome back to my channel. Today we are talking about the most emotionally heavy, visually insane rematch in anime history, Luffy vs Rob Lucci on Egghead Island. And trust me, the psychological difference between these two fights will completely change how you view Luffy's journey. Imagine a villain so terrifying that his mere presence once made the future pirate king cry out in absolute desperation, bleeding on a cold stone floor, fighting not just for victory, but for the right of his crew to even exist. For years, Rob Lucci was the ultimate gold standard of despair in One Piece. He was the wall that Luffy could barely climb, forcing him to literally shave years off his own lifespan just to survive. But what happens when that absolute monster returns, stronger than ever, only to realize that the boy he once broke has now become a god? To truly understand the weight of what happened on Egghead, we have to talk about the blood-stained bricks of Enies lobby. Back then, every single punch Lucci threw felt like a death sentence. Luffy was pushed so far into a corner that he had to invent Gear 2 and Gear 3 on the spot, tearing his own muscles apart just to match Lucci's lethal Rokushiki techniques. That fight was dark, suffocating, and driven by pure, raw survival. We all thought the chapter of absolute trauma was sealed away, but fast forward to the futuristic shores of Egghead Island, and the ghost of Luffy's past steps out of the shadows. When CP0 infiltrates the island, Rob Lucci proves he hasn't changed a bit. He is still a cold-blooded killing machine. Without a single thought, he brutally breaks Vegapunk Atlas, leaving her shattered on the pavement. But just as the dust settles, the atmosphere completely freezes. Out of the smoke steps Monkey D. Luffy. The moment their eyes lock, the entire story shifts. This isn't just a random encounter, it's a collision of two completely different eras. Lucci is now the undisputed apex assassin of CP0, carrying years of hidden humiliation and a burning desire to erase the only stain on his perfect record. But Luffy is no longer that crying rookie. He is a Yonko, an emperor of the sea. And what Lucci does next shocked the entire Marines administration because he violates a direct order from the fleet admiral, risking a global war just to get his hands on Luffy. Lucci immediately unveils his absolute ultimate weapon, the awakening of his leopard fruit. Now you need to understand how terrifying this actually is. In the world of One Piece, awakening a Zoan fruit is an absolute psychological nightmare. If your mind wavers even for a second, the primal, bloodthirsty beast inside takes over your consciousness permanently, turning you into a mindless monster. But Lucci is a prodigy of death. He doesn't just survive the awakening, he tames it. As dark, ominous black flames and pitch-black smoke swirl around his lean, muscular frame, Lucci embodies pure, calculated malice. He stands there as the literal definition of an elite killer. Anyone else would have run. Anyone else would have trembled. But look at Luffy's reaction. Faced with the very embodiment of his past nightmares, Luffy doesn't flinch. He doesn't get angry. Instead, he does something that completely shatters the tension of the entire arc. He starts to smile. He starts to laugh. And with the sudden echoing beat of the drums of liberation, he activates Gear 5. Suddenly, the screen changes from a dark thriller into absolute visual poetry. As Luffy's hair and clothes turn pure, brilliant white, a majestic white ribbon cloud encircles his shoulders. Look at the insane contrast Oda created here. On one side, you have Lucci's dark smoke, representing oppression, government control, assassination, and death. On the other side, you have Luffy's white clouds, representing absolute freedom, liberation, and joy. The boy who once fought Lucci with tears of agony in his eyes is now fighting him with a smile that literally lights up the world. The clash begins, and Lucci moves with blinding, lethal speed, unleashing a barrage of finger pistols meant to pierce straight through human flesh. But against a literal god, normal physics don't apply. Luffy treats Lucci's most lethal world-class attacks like a Sunday morning cartoon. Lucci's punches sink into Luffy's rubber body, and Luffy just laughs it off, bouncing off the environment, turning a life-or-death battlefield into his personal playground. For the viewers, it's a breathtaking, almost overwhelming realization. Lucci is visibly losing his mind during the fight. He is a man who spent his entire life mastering logic, assassination, and martial arts, and he is facing a reality-warping entity that defies all logic. You can see the silent horror in Lucci's eyes as he realizes the bitter truth. I am not fighting a pirate, I am fighting a force of nature. In a desperate, final bid to save his fading pride, Lucci pours every ounce of his willpower into his ultimate technique, the Rokuogan, attempting to blast through Luffy's defenses. But Luffy isn't just strong anymore, his imagination is his weapon. And then, the moment that made every single One Piece fan scream at their screens, Gomu Gomu no Dawn Rocket. Luffy compresses his body, launching himself with such unimaginable speed that the top assassin of the world government cannot even react. Luffy's fist buries itself so deeply into Lucci's midsection that the sheer force breaks Lucci's Zoan awakening form instantly. Lucci is left coughing up blood, his eyes blank, standing purely on stubborn, broken pride. In that single, definitive exchange, the entire power scaling of One Piece was rewritten. The gap between them is no longer a small step, it's an uncrossable ocean. Luffy has officially stepped into the realm of gods, leaving his past nightmares completely in the dust. This rematch wasn't just about showing off a new power, it was emotional proof of how far our boy from East Blue has come. The villain who once represented absolute despair and a near-death experience for the Straw Hats is now someone Luffy can defeat while literally playing around. The era of Luffy being hunted is officially over. He is the one who hunts now, but it makes you wonder, which moment gave you deeper goosebumps? Seeing Luffy barely survive using Gear 2 out of pure love for his crew back in Eni's lobby, or watching him completely break Lucci's spirit with a joyful smile in Gear 5? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, because I want to see how the community feels about this massive shift. If this breakdown gave you chills, do me a huge favor. Hit that subscribe button, smash the like, and share this with another One Piece fan who needs to remember just how legendary this journey has been. Until next time, sayonara.